my geometry piece.
What is that?
Okay?
You should say something to you.
If you want to come up and say hi, you go for it. But this at the end, okay. Then you can do it at the end. Okay.
This water's so
Did you guys learn about midpoint formula? I know you learned about midpoint formula today, right?
No.
He's learning homework.
I haven't learned about
What's that?
What homework are we on?
This is homework 1.3, and it's question number 3. I know you guys learned about midpoint formula today because I taught my kids midpoint formula today. Okay. The good news is midpoint formula is in your geometry EOC reference sheet, but it's also really easy to memorize, okay? The midpoint is the average of your x values, comma, the average of your y values. Oops. Okay, when we find the average, we add the two
Wait,
extremes.
what question is it?
Number 3.
Oh, okay.
So the midpoint looks kind of scary like this. All you're doing is, do you guys have notes? Because if I'm writing
I
notes.
think we did something similar to that today.
Yeah, we did.
Well,
Good. Did you have variables?
I think we did. Hold up.
If you have notes for that, I want to see it because
I haven't had that.
this was not in the textbook. The homework challenges you beyond what the textbook. Yes, so that's when you were given points, and that's kind of like the introduction to midpoint
That was my
formula.
question.
This is really challenging you because the x and y coordinates it gives you here have variables. So that's what makes this extremely tricky. So we're going to take little baby steps to work through it. It says point M is the midpoint of FG, line segment FG. Can the value of variable A be determined? Right away looking at it, it's really hard to tell. We've got an A variable in the Y coordinate of F. We've got an A variable in the G, in the X coordinate of the point G. I want notebooks out, pencils in hand, you're taking notes. Everybody should have this formula down on their notebook right now.
What?
Notebook open, pencil in hand. Number 3 on lesson 1.3 on your homework, okay? Everybody get the midpoint formula down? Good. Now, the midpoint is also a point on this line, meaning it has coordinates. It has the coordinates 3, 5, or 3, 5, x, y, okay? So the midpoint is 3, 5. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what I have here is if the midpoint equals this value, comma, this value, doesn't that mean that this equals 3 and this equals 5? Because if the midpoint has the coordinates 3, 5, that means the midpoint needing these two coordinates would be 3, 5, right? Midpoint equals 3, 5. So whatever this is, it has to equal 3. Whatever this is, it has to equal 5. So then we can set this equal to 3, and we can set this equal to 5. I'm going to just erase a little bit, just so
Question.
I have more room.
Question. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. So if this whole thing equals 3, I'm going to write that. x1, or the value or the coordinate of the first point's x, plus x2, which is the second x value, or the second point's x value, over 2 equals 3. Do you agree with that? Notebook open. Taking notes. Oh, it's okay, I forgive you. But the next person is in big trouble, because I've said it like 16 times.
Taking notes for real.
And
So
they
take
don't-
notes for real, okay?
they don't do the next break.
So this still looks like a total mess, and remember, these x's are not variables. They just represent the x coordinate of the first point and the x coordinate of the second point. Now, before I start plugging things in for this, I'm gonna go ahead and simplify this because I am allowed to cancel out this 2 by multiplying by 2 over 1. That allows me to simplify it, so now what I have is the first point's x coordinate plus the second point's x coordinate equals 3. Again, these are not variables, x's, they are representing the x coordinates on those points. Now, let's look over here and see our first point and our second point. We'll start from left to right. Our first point is F, and the coordinates for F are, you know, I need to make that a lot bigger. The coordinates for F are what? Somebody tell me. The coordinates for F, can you see it over there?
Let's see.
Now, your numbers might be different than mine.
B
My,
plus
3 plus 1 plus, comma 8 plus 2.
Good. Are they all the same?
Yeah.
Wait.
B plus 1, comma, A plus 2.
All
That means that the x value is b plus 1 and the y value is a plus 2. Can't do anything with it right now, but I'm just identifying what those mean. My second point G, okay, we'll call this the first point, and we'll call this the second point. First point F, here's our x value and our y value. Second point G, let's get our x value and our y value. What do we have?
2a, comma 3b plus 3.
Do you guys all have the same numbers on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
It's like for everyone.
Good. 2a, comma, 3b plus 3. We have to work really slowly because if we make one little mistake, the whole thing will be wrong. 2a, 3 plus b. Now, remember when I had, this is my x coordinate of my midpoint, which we know that the midpoint is 3 comma 5, right? So if this is my x coordinate, I set it equal to 3. Then I started simplifying by just canceling out the fact that it's being divided by 2. So I multiply it times 2. Oh my gosh! Why didn't you guys catch my mistake? I multiplied it times 2 only on one side. See, I told you if we make little mistakes, it's not gonna work. You guys have gotta catch my mistakes, that's your job, right? So, if I multiply on this side by 2, I have to multiply the other side by 2. And I get the first value of x plus the second value of x is 6. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Not even close.
Not
Not even close. Okay. Now we have to fill in our values for the first value of x and the second point's value for x. Our first point's value for x is what? It says it right up here where I'm pointing.
B plus 1.
B plus 1, very good.
Then A plus 2.
Plus A plus, wait, no.
Oh, then.
First of all, I'm not gonna use parentheses, everything's positive here, so I'm just gonna skip the parentheses. b plus 1, and then we need our x coordinate of our second point.
Oh, 3b plus 3.
We need our x coordinate of
Oh,
our
2a.
2a. And this is really tricky because that's why I wrote my points like on top of each other, because then I have my x's lined up here, my y's lined up here, my first point this way, and my second point this way. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, b plus 1 plus 2a equals 6. Is there anything I can simplify here?
2. I'll make the 6.
B
Hold on.
She also makes it.
Oh, there it is. b plus 1 plus 2a equals 6. What can I do?
6.
No, head up. What can I do?
Look at my notes.
Oh, you're looking at me. Sorry. Thought you were taking a snooze.
That too.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything I can
Maybe
simplify?
B+1.
Is there anything, even like the tiniest little thing, is there anything I can do
No.
to simplify this?
Divide by 2.
No.
I don't know that.
So, do you have to do something with the 6?
I mean, eventually, yeah, but what we're trying to do is, I'm gonna give you a hint. We have two variables here. I can't solve for those variables right now because there's two missing numbers. But is there anything here that I can do? No, because we're working. When we're done, then you can go, okay? Is there anything here that we can use to simplify? Do we agree that I can't really do anything about the B, I can't do anything about the A?
You do something with the numbers.
We can take away 1, right?
Yeah.
We can subtract 1 from both sides, okay? So that cancels out, and now I have B plus 2A equals 5. And I know we've done a lot of steps so far. We took our midpoint formula, we subbed in our midpoint, we set it equal to our midpoint x, we multiplied times 2 on both sides, then we're substituting our x values for what we have, then we solved, and I cannot do anything else here. There's nothing else I can do. Yeah,
Where'd you get the 2 over 1 from?
this?
Yeah.
Because this is the formula for the x value of the midpoint, and since this equals 3, because it gives us the midpoint 3, 5, I set this whole thing equal to 3, and then to cancel out the division by 2, I multiplied times 2. I just put it over 1 to keep it in fraction form so I can cancel out my numerator and denominator, and then I multiplied times 2 on the other side to keep the equal sign true. Do you want me to explain that again a little bit slower?
Don't understand.
Okay. So we took, this is our midpoint formula, right? The midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. It's basically saying the midpoint is the average of the x values, comma, the average of the y values. And our x and our y values are here and here of our points. The midpoint, it gives us, the midpoint is 3, 5. Since it gives us those values, and the 3 represents the x value, and the 5 represents the y value, and this represents the x value, and this represents the y value, I can take this whole thing, set it equal to the x value of the midpoint. And that's what I did over here. So I did x1 plus x2 divided by 2. I didn't fill in any x values yet. I just started simplifying it by, since it was being divided by 2, and multiplied times 2 to cancel out and make it simpler. So then I took it from here and got it down here. And it's no longer being divided by 2 because I solved algebraically. And then almost made the mistake of not doing it to both sides, but then I caught myself. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, filled in my value of x for the first point, plus the value of x for the second point, and I get my equation here, subtracted 1 from both sides, and I get b plus 2a equals 5, and I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna show you something pretty cool when we move over here. Now, we're gonna do the same thing that we did for our x value of the midpoint for our y value of the midpoint. So, if this equals the y value of the midpoint, then I'm gonna set it equal to that. I'm gonna do it over here. Y1 plus y2 divided by 2 equals what?
6. No, 5.
5, very good. 5. Is that where you got your 5, or were you looking down there?
No.
Good, good, good. Okay, because this equals that. All right, so that means that whatever this is, when it's divided by 2, you'll get 5. So if I want to solve algebraically and simplify that, what can I do? Grayson, I'm going to ask you because that's the part that you had a question about before. And it's okay if you still don't understand it. If this mumbo jumbo, I don't care what it is right now, if that's being divided by 2, and I want to do the opposite, what do? What's the opposite of dividing by 2? Multiplying times 2, very good. So multiply times 2. That's where I get my 2 over 1 and just putting it in fraction form, just like this.
Don't forget the other side.
Thank you. Cancel, cancel. 5 times 2 is 10. So I have my y1 plus my y2 equals 10. Now, what did we do over here that we can use that next step
You
over
dropped
here?
it down.
I started plugging in my values for
Oh, so
my,
you do 2.
find the first
A
point.
plus 2.
A plus 2, you guys are getting this, a plus 2, and again, I'm gonna
Plus.
cut out the parentheses, because everything's positive.
3b
Plus, my y value of my second point, very good. 3b plus 3, right? A plus 2 plus 3b plus
Now
3
you subtract.
equals 10. Okay, I hear what you're saying. What do you want to subtract here?
The 2.
Good, and
3.
yes. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to combine them, because I can just add these together. 2 and 3 is 5, right? So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to say a plus 5 plus 3b equals 10, because I just combined these terms. Now I can subtract just one number, right? Subtract the 5.
And then you get another.
Yep. Now I have a plus 3b equals 5. What do you notice about this and this?
That they both equal 5, but this
If
one.
they both, you're right, they're different, but if they both equal 5, what does that mean about them?
They're the same.
They're the same. If they both equal 5, then they both equal each other.
Wow.
Right?
That's what you said.
Hashtag math is cool. What?
That's what you said, you Jess.
That's what I said, yeah, when I was working it out on my own. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting this. Okay, so if they both equal 5, they both equal each other. And I'm going to write that in the middle here. I'm running out of room. I'm going to make a little, whoops, and make a little boxy box. And I'm going to set them equal to each other. I don't need my 5 anymore, because all I had to know was that they're equal to each other. So I'm going to do b plus 2a equals a plus 3b. Remember last year when we were talking about those 3 ways to solve equations, linear equations, and one was substitution?
What year was that?
That's what we just did.
Oh.
Remember substitution, elimination?
Is that what you mentioned?
Oh, don't forget your attendance, hold on.
Yes, that.
Hello, is it attendance? bye. Still didn't take 10 minutes, but I'll do that when I'm done. Okay. So we just used substitution. We substituted because they both equal 5, they both equal each other. Now what can we do? I'm gonna do something here, and I think it might make it easier to see. I'm gonna put a 1 in front of this A because we know that our 1s are invisible and we can make them appear if we need to.
Think, would you combine?
Yeah, we're gonna it's kind of like combining across the equal sign, so it's solving algebraically across the equal sign. So, if I have a 1A here, can't I subtract 1A on both sides? Because if I have a 1A and then I take away a 1A, that goes away. Get it? A, away. Oh man, it's tough. Okay, now I have my 1B. If you still just have it as B, that's okay. 1B plus what? Plus 1A. Or if you just put A, that's fine. Equals
3B.
3B. Now what can I do?
Take the 1B to take 3B.
What's that?
1B minus 1B.
Yeah.
Does it?
Subtract 1B. Subtract 1B on both sides. And now I have 1A equals 2B. What do I do with my 1 now? Do I need it there?
No.
Let me find my spot here. 1A equals 2B. Oh, I subtracted my B's. Hold on one second. Let me figure this one out. I did this a different way. Let me make sure I did this correctly. I have, thank you, B times 2A, B plus 2A equals A plus 3B. Okay. Subtract A, that goes away. Subtract 1A, and I get positive 1. So then I have 1B plus 1A, or B plus A equals 3B. Subtract a B, and I get A equals 2B. Okay, oh, okay. So A equals 2 times B. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I remember. It's confusing myself. If A equals 2 times B, then we can use substitution again. Veronica. Notes. We can substitute. If we know the value of A being 2B, then we can substitute in either here or here and solve for B. Now, if I have A all by itself here, why don't I substitute my A value, which is equal to 2B, and I'll put it in for A. Does that make sense? Substitution, we learned that last year. If A equals 2B, then I can substitute this A to be 2B. Now I'm down to one variable. So now I have 5B equals 5. I combined my terms. 5B equals 5. Divide by 5, and I get B. I get 1, right? Now, here's the only thing. It is asking for A, so what can we do to find the value of A? if we know that B equals 1, what can we do to solve for A? Starts with an S. Substitute again. So if B is 1, why don't I take this one? And instead of B, I'll put 1. Now what do I do? Where are we?
Yeah, like,
So I had in my equation that looked like this. This is what we simplified it to. Then I set them equal to each other because they both equaled 5, which meant they equaled each other. I ended up combining terms, and I got A equals 2B, and then I said, well, if A is the same thing as 2B, then I had an A here, and I just ripped it out and I put in a 2B. I substituted it, okay? Then that allowed me, if I have B's, then I can combine them and solve for B. Now, since it's asking if A can be determined, well, yes, it can, because now that we know B, what can I do here? I can substitute this B for the value that we found. And what do I do from here? What do we do from here to solve for A? Anybody? Does anybody know how to solve for a variable?
I can't remember.
Alejandro, you know this. Santiago, come on, you know this.
I do.
You do. We're solving for A. A is being multiplied times 2, and the product of that is being added to 1.
Would you subtract?
Yeah, subtract what?
The 1?
Yeah, subtract 1, we're just simplifying. Subtract 1, cancels out, and now I have 2A equals 4. Now what do I do to solve for A? Divide by 2 on both sides, and A equals 2. Whew! Point M is the midpoint. Can the value of the variable A be determined? The answer is yes, but it takes a really, really long, complicated time. And if there's anybody out there that can do this in a simpler way, I would really like to know. But for now, the answer is A.
27 minutes.
The value,
A equals-
I'm sorry, the A is the first one. Yeah, the value of A is 2.
So,
Wait, it says, wait.
that's random.
For me, it
So it's
is.
the one that says to determine the value of A.
Wait,
You don't have the same numbers?
no, well, yeah, but like, it's like in a different order.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so whatever, yeah, because you want that you can determine the value of A, you set up and solve a system of equations. Systems of equations, remember? We set up and solve a system of equations,
System of equations in 2 variables. Short one.
and then we substitute it.
I didn't know it's a guess question second.
I didn't guess which word it was. Right, what would this say?
Okay, well, let me pause this. Whew.
I got it. I got it right.
Wait, flip the camera so we can say hi.
Is everybody allowed to be photographed? Is everybody allowed to? Okay. Is everybody okay with this? Except for somebody who will not be named? Okay, everybody says hi. Okay.
Coco loves saying that.